Part 49. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 481. Chapter 481. Honey, is your end finished? As they kissed, Chiao Mian was pushed onto the sofa by him. He inserted his hands into her hair, held the back of her head and continued to kiss her deeply. Woo, mo yesi. Chiao Mian's whole body went limp from his kiss, and her head became even dizzy due to lack of oxygen. The alcohol was spreading out little by little, swallowing up what little sanity she had left. She let out a coquettish moan in her throat, reached out to his chest with one hand and pushed him gently. She just parted her lips and took 2 deep breaths. The next second, the man held her head down domineeringly, deeply and heavily. Kiss. The temperature in the box is getting higher and higher. Chiao Mian had a confused look on her face, and her eyes were becoming more and more confused. Mo Yesi kissed her lips downwards. When his hot palms touched her tender skin, Chiao Mian shivered from the heat. Her head was dizzy and she was not quite awake anymore. I wanted to reach out to stop him, but the hand I stretched out was soft. The action of pushing the man away was more like refusing to welcome him. Above the head, the man's breath gradually became heavier. He kissed her for a while, panted and raised his head, with a forbearing look on his face, touched her hot little face, and said in a hoarse voice, "Baby, is your end finished?" "Aunt." Chiao Mian opened her eyes and stared at him with blurred eyes for a while, then nodded. There was a glimmer of light in the man's eyes. He came to the corner of her lips and kissed her gently, then he hugged her and sat up. He took a deep breath and tried to calm down the raging desire in his body. He reached out to straighten her messy hair, fastened the buttons of her clothes one by one, then hugged her and stood up, saying, "Let's go home. Mian, my first time with you is not suitable here." The two of them had been together once before. But that time, neither of them knew each other, and she was still unconscious. This time, he hoped that both of them would be awake. He hoped that she could clearly feel how he wanted her. This is a very important thing to him, and he cannot take her casually in a place like this. That would be too unfair to her. Asterisk. Back to Lushan Villa. Mo Yesi parked the car and turned around to help Chiao Mian unbuckle her seat belt, but found that she had fallen asleep. In a semi-drunken state, the sleeping girl's cheeks glowed with a faint crimson color, like a ripe apple, pink and tender, making people want to take a bite. Thick and long eyelashes cover her eyelids, leaving a shallow silhouette on her fair skin. Sleek shoulder-length hair was spread down, covering half of her face, making her palm-sized face look more delicate and delicate. Her lips are still a little red and swollen, and there are still obvious teeth marks on her lips in several places. That was when he kissed her before. He was a little too excited and couldn't control his bite. There were also a few red marks on her smooth neck. The girl's skin was incredibly soft and delicate. Sometimes, even if he didn't use heavy force, he could easily leave marks on her body. Mo Yesi looked at these personal marks on her body that were unique to him, his eyes dimmed, and the desire in his body that had been suppressed for a long time rose again. He really wanted to possess her completely. Then he left traces of him on every part of her body. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 482. Chapter 482. Mo Yesi, what are you doing? He wanted everyone to know that she was his Mo Yesi's woman. Before her, he had never had such a strong possessive desire for someone or something. After her, he realized that there were times when his possessiveness was so strong that it was almost perverted. Because sometimes, he even had the idea of imprisoning her. Want her, to be his alone, and no one else could get close to her except him. Of course, such thoughts only flashed through his mind. He wouldn't really do it. That kind of love is too selfish and too perverted. It only satisfies one party and the other party will suffer great harm. How could he be willing to hurt her? He restrained the desire in his heart, unfastened the seat belt around her, and took her sleeping soundly out of the car. Asterisk. This night, Chiao Mian slept deeply. She had a dream. Dream that she strayed into a dangerous mountain forest. The forest was full of wild beasts. A big tiger with glowing green eyes discovered her and pounced on her. She was so frightened that she screamed and ran away. But her speed could not match that of the tiger. Soon, she was overtaken by the tiger. The tiger with a strong body and shiny fur glared at her with bared teeth, growled low in his throat, and pounced towards her. Chiao Mian was thrown to the ground suddenly. A tiger weighing several hundred kilograms jumped on her, weighing her down so much that she could hardly breathe. The tiger hanging above opened its mouth, revealing its strong white teeth. Just when Chiao Mian felt that she was bound to die, she closed her eyes in fear. Maybe the next second. What was waiting for her was not the pain of being torn apart, but... In her dream, Chiao Mian plucked up the courage to open her eyes in surprise, only to see a tiger licking her neck. And the sharp claws did not tear her apart, they just tore off her clothes. Chiao Mian woke up from the feeling of suffocation. When she opened her eyes, she saw a black shadow above her head. Is a man. She almost screamed when she realized she was being held down by a man. It wasn't until she smelled a familiar scent at the tip of her nose that she raised her head and looked at the man pressing on her in shock. She met a pair of deep, burning eyes, and her frightened face was clearly reflected in the man's dark eyes. Chiao Mian saw deep desire in his eyes. It was so deep that, it scared her a little. Hand of the man, he was unbuttoning her pajamas, half of which were already unbuttoned. The loose nightgown on his body was mostly open. When Chiao Mian looked up, she could see the strong and attractive muscles on his chest, as well as all his beautiful curves from the collarbone to the abdominal muscles to the mermaid line. She stared blankly for a few seconds, her nose felt hot, and her mouth felt a little dry. She was shown such a tempting picture so early in the morning, and her little heart couldn't bear the stimulation. Wait, that's not right. Her focus shouldn't be this. Chiao Mian suddenly recovered from the temptation of beauty, opened her mouth, and said in a hoarse voice, "Mo Yesi, you, what are you doing?" Above her head, the man looked at her for a moment, then a low laugh came from his throat. "Baby, what did you think I was doing?" His voice was hoarse as if he had just woken up, low and sultry, and his voice was so tender and doting. The update is completed today. Thank you everyone for subscribing. If you have a monthly ticket, please help me vote, okay? Thank you for the reward of Duok, 150.35, Liang Cheng, 152.41, Yunduo, Liang Qing, Hu Haiu, 183.42, 11, 180.23. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 483. Chapter 483. Don't worry, leave yourself to me. Chiao Mian's heartbeat quickened, and there was a warmth on her face. The man's slender fingers fell on her other button and continued to unbutton her pajamas. The chill in her chest brought her back to reality suddenly, and by the time she realized what he wanted to do, it was already too late to stop him. Mo Yesi, don't. She held his hand that was about to continue going down, her fair little face turned crimson, and she felt terribly panicked. She's not ready yet. Mo Yesi paused for a moment, looked down at her for a few seconds, then held his big hand behind his back, wrapping her soft little hand tightly in his palm. He spoke, his voice a little lower and hoarse than before, "Baby, I've been waiting for a long time. Don't refuse me anymore, okay? Chiao Mian bit her lower lip, but what, you don't want to give it to me? Mo Yesie's body was extremely tense. He had been enduring it from last night until now, and to stop at this time was undoubtedly a painful and sweet torture for him. But he still couldn't bear to continue and listen to her patiently. No, Chiao Mian glanced at him quickly. Her face was covered with a layer of halo, and her cheeks were as hot as fire. Her voice was soft and thin, and her eyelashes were trembling. I'm not ready yet. You don't need to prepare anything. Hearing this reason, Mo Yesie chuckled, lifted her soft chin with his slender fingers, stared at her with his deep and dark eyes, and said softly, "Don't worry, leave yourself to me, I won't hurt you." The man's gentleness and patience gradually dispelled the tension and fear in her heart. She mustered up the courage and raised her eyes to look at him. "The face in front of me is as handsome and deep as a knife, and it's a bit too good looking. Even if I watch it every day, I still won't get tired of it, and I'll still feel excited." Looking further down, he fell on his perfect physique that he diligently exercised. Those strong and muscles and smooth and attractive body lines all exuded fatal temptation to the opposite sex. This is a man whose whole body is full of hormones. At this moment, she suddenly remembered a word. A walking living aphrodisiac. At this moment, the man hovering above her was definitely a living aphrodisiac. Because she felt she was being tempted. Yes, but... The man raised his lips slightly, leaned down, and kissed her on the lips. His voice was gentle. "What else are you worried about? But, do you really not mind?" Although she was already a little fascinated and confused, she had not completely lost her mind yet. She looked at him nervously and anxiously, her voice getting louder and louder. Ching said, "I am no longer the kind of clean woman, you." What she answered was a lingering and long deep kiss. He blocked all her next words with a passionate kiss. The man puts his own practice into practice and shows his attitude with practical actions. Asterisk. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 484. Chapter 484. I see how pitiful you are, so I forgive you. She was filled with anger, and it took a lot of effort to bite it off. After tasting the smell of blood, her expression changed and she hurriedly let go. Looking down again, there was a bit of annoyance in his eyes. A row of deep tooth marks appeared on the back of Mo Yesie's hand at a speed visible to the naked eye. Blood stains can also be seen on some tooth marks. Chiao Mian suddenly became anxious, so anxious that tears almost fell out of her eyes. She held his hand and explained hastily, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry, does it hurt?" Mo Yesie lowered his head and saw the tearful eyes of the girl in his arms filled with anxiety and remorse. She looked like she was about to burst into tears. Somewhere in his heart was so soft that he couldn't help but speak. His voice was soft and unreasonable. "Baby, don't cry, I'm not in pain." "How could it not hurt?" Chiao Mian raised her head, her eyes filled with self-blame, and the corners of her eyes were moist as she said, I bit you so hard that you bled. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it. If it hurts you, then bite me too." Chiao Mian is actually very afraid of pain. At this moment, she still bravely stretched out her white and tender little hands. Mo Yesie looked at the soft little hand under his eyelids. He was stunned for a moment, and the corners of his lips curled up a little. The curve of the corners of the man's lips is extremely charming. When he smiled, there was also a faint smile in those deep and charming eyes, which seemed to be filled with stars, and his gaze was so deep that it seemed to people's soul away. Chiao Mian looked at him blankly, a little dazed by the smile on his lips. There was a voice in her body that kept shouting, "Oh my God, Mo Yesie looks so good when he smiles. Is such a good-looking man really her husband? Isn't she dreaming?" Baby Mo Yesie approached him, Did you really let me bite you? Chiao Mian was held in Mo Yesi's arms, and her whole body was surrounded by the hot breath emanating from his body. Her nose was filled with the domineering and refreshing scent of this man. No, not afraid. Really, Mo Yesi laughed lowly in her ear again, and his warm breath fell on her ear. Then I really bit it. As he spoke, he took her little hand and brought it to his lips. The moment he opened his mouth, Chiao Mian's body suddenly stiffened and she closed her eyes in fear. The girl's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and because she was too nervous and scared, her rosy face turned a bit white. You are obviously very afraid of pain, but now you really mustered up the courage to let him bite you. But how could Mo Yesi be willing to do so? He laughed lowly again, straightened up, and reached out to touch her head. Forget it, I see how pitiful you are, so I forgive you. Asterisk. Back to Lushan Villa. Mo Yesi parked the car and turned around to help Chiao Mian unbuckle her seat belt, but found that she had fallen asleep. In a semi-drunk state, the sleeping girl's cheeks glowed with a faint blush, and her thick and long eyelashes covered her eyelids, leaving a shallow silhouette on her fair skin. Sleek shoulder-length hair was spread down, covering half of her face, making her palm-sized face look more delicate and delicate. Mo Yesi saw that she was sleeping soundly, but he couldn't bear to wake her up. He unbuckled her seat belt and took her sleeping soundly out of the car. Asterisk. Chiao Mian woke up half asleep. She didn't know whether she was in reality or dreaming. In short, everything happened suddenly. It also ended quickly. She felt like she was dreaming, but some of the feelings were very real. After it was over, she looked at the time and had doubts in her heart. It seemed like just less than 10 minutes. But, aren't the domineering CEOs in the book all very powerful? End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 485. Chapter 485. Chapter 485. Why did you perform so poorly today? Chiao Mian has little experience in this area, and the only man she has ever experienced is Mo Yesi. Her memory of that chaotic night is vague and she can't remember anything. So, she has no object to compare with. She didn't know whether Mo Yesi's behavior was considered fast or not. After all, novels contain elements of exaggeration and cannot be used as a reference standard. When Chiao Mian questioned whether Mo Yesi's time was too short, at this moment, the man was completely confused. From an angle that Chiao Mian couldn't see, his face showed an expression of disbelief, and his hot body became stiff. He couldn't believe it was over so quickly. He has not been under much pressure recently. He did not feel weak due to illness. This is not the first time that he and Chiao Mian have met. No matter which aspect you analyze, he shouldn't be so fast. Being quick in this kind of thing is undoubtedly a fatal blow to men. Especially a man like Mo Yesi. The conditions in all aspects are unique. It can be said that the arrogance in the eyes of others, a perfect man. But if you are not good at the most important thing for a man, no matter how perfect or good the conditions are, it is almost equivalent to a flaw. Originally, he wanted to perform well today. He wanted to give Chiao Mian a very wonderful experience. But he never expected that it would end so quickly. It was so fast that he was caught off guard. He didn't dare to look at the expression on Chiao Mian's face. Would she think that there was something wrong with his functioning? And then dislike him? After all, as a man, if he cannot satisfy his wife in that kind of thing, is he still a real man? Mo Yesi felt indescribably frustrated. He obviously performed well that night, why did he perform so poorly today? And this was when Chiao Mian was sober. She moved her slimy body, looked at him doubtfully, bit her lip, and asked in a cautious tone, are you done yet? Can you get up? I want to take a bath. She was sweating a lot and felt sticky and uncomfortable. Chiao Mian felt that her tone was careful enough and took care of the man's emotions. After all, she also knew that this kind of thing hurt a man's self-esteem, so she didn't even dare to mention the word quick in front of him. As soon as she finished speaking, she felt Mo Yesie's body stiffen. After being stiff for a moment, he got out of bed expressionlessly. But he could feel that Mo Yesie's eyes fell on her and he was looking at her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 486. Chapter 486. She really disliked him. Although she didn't know whether it was true or not, she didn't want to test it on her own right now. I can go by myself, as if to prove that she wasn't lying. Chiao Mian grabbed a thin blanket and wrapped it around her body, then jumped out of bed barefoot, turned around and ran towards the bathroom. Seeing that petite figure running into the bathroom energetically, Mo Yesie's expression changed again, and his expression became even stiffer. She really disliked him. Mo Yesie was in a heavy mood. No matter how difficult he encountered at work, it would not make him feel as heavy as he is now. He watched Chiao Mian enter the bathroom in silence, and then immediately closed the bathroom door as if to guard against thieves. His mood suddenly became a little heavier. Is it because she dislikes him that she doesn't want to take a bath with him? With a heavy expression on his face, the man pursed his lips and clenched his fists. He looked in the direction of the bathroom for a few minutes, turned around, and walked out of the bedroom with heavy steps. Asterisk. Chiao Mian came out of the shower and didn't see Mo Yesie in the bedroom. She called several times, but he didn't respond. She walked to the dressing room wrapped in a bath towel, took out her clothes and put them on. Then she went downstairs and asked Ren, but Ren told her that he didn't see Mo Yesie coming downstairs. Didn't he come downstairs? Chiao Mian had a look of surprise on her face. She thought Mo Yesie was having breakfast downstairs. Ryan shook his head. The young master didn't come down. Didn't the young madam see him? Did the young master go to the study to handle work? Well, it's possible. Chiao Mian knew that he was not idle at work, and it was normal for him to handle work in the study. She thought for a while, smiled and said to Ren, "Let the kitchen prepare breakfast, and then go to the study to ask him to come down for dinner. It's getting late now, and you still have to eat breakfast no matter how busy you are at work." "Okay, madam." Ren called a maid over and asked the maid to go to the kitchen to notify him and prepare breakfast. He went upstairs and went to the study to ask Mo Yesie to come downstairs for dinner. Asterisk. 10 minutes later. Chiao Mian was sitting in the dining room filled with breakfast, enjoying a rich and nutritious breakfast. Ryan walked up to her and said respectfully, "Madam, the young master said that you should eat first. He still has some unfinished business on his hands, so he will come down later." "Are you so busy?" Chiao Mian frowned. "Then bring him a glass of milk and let him drink it." Chiao Mian didn't think much about it. She thought that Mo Yesie was really busy at work, so he couldn't get out of his way to have breakfast. "Yes, young lady." Steward Ren glanced at Chiao Mian suspiciously before turning and leaving. Looking at the young lady's appearance, it doesn't look like she had a quarrel with the young master. Then why, when he went to call the young master to eat just now, he saw the young master's face was gloomy and scary. It was like someone had offended him. Moreover, no matter how busy he is, he will come down to have breakfast with the young lady. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 487. Chapter 487. These words deeply stimulated him. This is the first time that he is not with the young lady. Ryan had a hunch that something was wrong. Originally, he thought the problem should be with the young lady. After all, the young master is usually a person who keeps his emotions and anger secretive. The only person who can express his emotions directly is the young madam. But the young lady didn't look like she had any unpleasantness with the young master. So, what happened to the young master? Who is it that made the young master angry? Asterisk. In the study, Moyesi searched on the computer for topics related to how will a woman feel if a man is too naughty. Soon, the answers from countless netizens were displayed. He just read a few of them casually, and his mood reached rock bottom. A netizen said, "Men can say no to anything, but they can never say no to sex. Men can be fast at any time, but they must not be fast during sex. A man who is fast and incompetent will only make women feel disgusted." Another netizen said, "Whether a man can do it or not directly affects the rate of women's cheating. Men who cannot satisfy their own women can only let other men satisfy their women." Another netizen said, "Let me answer this question. I am a woman. My ex is a lipstick guy and he was very quick when he had with me. To be honest, I didn't even feel anything before he ended it. As a result, I had a shadow about doing that kind of thing, and almost became sexually frigid, so he also became my ex. Fortunately, I met my current girlfriend, and we live in harmony now. Therefore, whether X's quality of life is good or not really affects the relationship." Moyesi's eyes fell on the last two answers for a long time. Cheating. Predecessor. These words deeply stimulated him. So, if a woman feels that a man is not good enough, she will look for other men outside. Is it possible to turn him into an ex? He and Xiao Mian are already married. If she wants to turn him into her ex, she has to divorce him. When he thought that Xiao Mian would divorce him because of this incident and then find another man, he closed the computer with a pale face. No, she is his woman. He would never let her find another man. He will satisfy her. No matter what he does, he will satisfy her. When he thought about the possibility of losing her, Moyesi didn't care about the shamelessness and immediately picked up his cell phone and called Yan Xiaoqing. It rang several times before the call was answered. A hoarse voice that sounded excessive after indulgence sounded lazily, "Second brother, do you have anything to do with me?" Moyesi pursed his lips and held a pen on the desk tightly with one hand. He was silent for a long time. Over there, Yan Xiaoqing seemed a little confused and called out again, "Second brother, are you here? Why don't you speak? Every time you have with a woman, it usually lasts for how long?" After a long silence, Moyesi finally spoke up. However, as soon as he spoke, a violent coughing sound came from the mobile phone. Yan Xiaoqing seemed to be choked and coughed for a long time. He panted and said, "Second brother, isn't it? What's wrong with you? Why are you asking me this? Could it be that, you and my sister-in-law were not together for long enough, and my sister-in-law disliked me?" Yan Xiaoqing was joking. Out of sight, Moyesi's face suddenly sank, and then his facial expression became stiff. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 488. Chapter 488. Your sister-in-law is the only woman. He pursed his lips, his deep and handsome face was covered with a layer of gloom, and he remained silent without making a sound. Holy crap, isn't it? I guessed it right. Yan Xiaoqing was shocked to the extreme. His second brother was actually silent. Silence. It is impossible for any man to remain silent on such a matter. Even a man like his second brother. This is a matter of a man's self-esteem. If he hadn't really guessed it right, how could his second brother have remained silent for so long? He has already lost his face anyway, and Moyesi doesn't care about losing face anymore. He took a deep breath, opened the corners of his stiff mouth, and said in a difficult voice, "It wasn't like this that night, it was all normal. But today, it hasn't even been 10 minutes, and she seems to dislike me. What do you think is going on?" Yan Xiaoqing, that night? Second brother, you mean the night you lost your virginity? Is it possible that the target is different, so the performance is different? Because you like your sister-in-law so much, it is inevitable that you will be a little excited, so it's a little faster. And you didn't have any feelings for that woman that night, so. Mo Yesi interrupted him with a cold voice, "From beginning to end, there is only one woman, your sister-in-law." Yan Xiaoqing was confused for a moment. "Second brother, what do you mean?" "You mean, that woman that night was my sister-in-law?" Mo Yesi hadn't told him about this before. This made Yan Xiaoqing particularly surprised. But after being surprised, he felt it was very reasonable. His second brother is not the kind of casual man. He should have thought long ago that his sister-in-law belonged to the woman that night. After the second brother has touched one woman, it is impossible for him to touch another woman. However, the person we arranged for that night was not my sister-in-law, and she also had a car accident and was admitted to the hospital. Sister-in-law, how did she appear in your room? Could it be that someone else had made arrangements for you? Speaking of which, it's a good thing that the girl we arranged for you had a car accident on the way. Otherwise, as soon as she passed by, wouldn't she have bumped into my sister-in-law? Then it would be bad." Mo Yesi took a deep breath. "Yan Xiaosan, I didn't call you to talk to you about this." "Second brother, are you angry?" Yan Xiaoqing noticed that Mo Yesi's tone was wrong and immediately said in a flattering manner, okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Then let's talk about the length of time. Mo Yesi. If Yan Xiaoqing stood in front of him, he would definitely beat her up. "Second brother, since the woman that night was my sister-in-law, what else do you have to worry about? You yourself said that your performance was normal that night, which means you are fine. If you think there is a problem this time, maybe you're not in good health. Have you been sick recently?" Mo Yesi's expression froze and his face darkened. "No. That's because you didn't get a good rest. Nor. Is the work pressure too great?" "There's no pressure. Yan Xiaoqing, that shouldn't be the case." Mo Yesi pursed his lips and rubbed his eyebrows, feeling very irritable. He also knows that he shouldn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made this call to Yan Xiaoqing. He thought that this guy was more experienced and should be able to help him figure out what went wrong. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 489. Chapter 489. She has left? Yan Xiaoqing. No, second brother, you are too bad. You and your sister-in-law are both married, and you haven't touched anyone yet. Could it be that your sister-in-law doesn't want to touch you? Mo Yesi. How could he admit to such a shameful thing? Sister-in-law, you really won't touch me? Yan Xiaoqing couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. No, second brother, you have a good look and a good figure. I don't know how many women covet you. As long as a normal woman, I can't refuse your advances, can I? Sister-in-law actually refuses, she is actually willing to refuse. Mo Yesi frowned and interrupted him impatiently. She doesn't know what happened that night yet. Yan Xiaoqing was unable to complain. No, second brother, what's going on between you and your sister-in-law? Yan Xiaoqing asked confused. So, she didn't even know that you were the one who was with her that night? Are you not going to tell her? Mo Yesi's face changed slightly and he was silent for a moment. She hates what happened that night very much. I'm afraid she will hate me if I tell her. Then you can't keep hiding it from her. I know. Oh, second brother, you are miserable, Yan Xiaoqing sighed. Mo Yesi narrowed his eyes, what do you mean? Yan Xiaoqing sighed softly again and said with emotion, let me see, you care about your sister-in-law far more than she cares about you. It's because you care about her so much that you do this, so many worries. Are you afraid that if you tell your sister-in-law what happened, she will hate you and maybe leave you? Mo Yesi was silent. It turns out that he is afraid? Sure enough, once you are sincere, no matter who you are, you will become less confident. I never thought that you, second brother, would also have such a day. Yan Xiaoqing is definitely not gloating about his misfortune. He was very surprised. In the past, Mo Yesi looked ruthless and desireless, as if he had cut off the world of mortals and would never be tempted by any woman in his life. Who would have thought that when he was moved, he would be like this? Such a proud man. There will also be times when he is afraid that the person he likes will leave him. Yan Xiaoqing again shared a lot of experience. When Mo Yesi hung up the phone, the call time showed 46 minutes and 58 seconds. Asterisk. When Mo Yesi went downstairs, he didn't see Chiao Mian. He came to Ren and asked, where is the young lady? Ryan was stunned. The young lady said she was going to sign a contract today and would not wait for the young master to come with her. Didn't she tell the young master? Ryan's eyes showed doubts again. Young master and young madam, have you really never had any conflicts? Mo Yesi was stunned. She has left. Yes. Ryan could clearly feel that after he finished speaking these words, the pressure of the man standing in front of him suddenly dropped several degrees. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 490. Chapter 490. She still knows how to care about him. He raised his head and glanced at Mo Yesi a little uneasily, wondering if he had said something wrong. The young master seems unhappy. Master, do you want someone to prepare breakfast? Ren asked cautiously. Mo Yesi pursed his lips and remained silent for a while, then turned and walked upstairs. No need. At this moment, he was extremely depressed. She just left like that. Left without saying a word. Haven't even said hello to him. She would never have been like this before. Even if she couldn't wait for him to come with something, she would at least tell him. But she didn't have it today. She just told Ren and went out. Not even a text message was sent to him. She must have disliked him. Although he didn't say anything in words, he showed it with practical actions. Mo Yesi walked into the dressing room, his face as dark as water, and stood in front of the huge wardrobe in a daze for a while. When his fingers habitually reached for a black shirt, he suddenly remembered that Jiao Mian had said before that he always wore all black. His hand paused and he chose another silver gray shirt. Asterisk. After getting in the car, Uncle Li found that his young master seemed to be in a very low mood today and was in a bad mood. Although the young master's face has no expression, it doesn't look much different from usual. However, people who have been around him for many years can feel that he is in a bad mood. Although Uncle Li was curious, he didn't dare to ask more. He drove the car smoothly out of the villa and drove along the usual route for a while. Suddenly he heard Mo Yesi, who was sitting behind the car, said in a deep voice, "Don't rush to the company yet." Uncle Li was stunned. "Master, where are we going?" "The rear compartment." Mo Yesi said nothing. He looked down at his phone and kept the same posture for a full minute before moving his slender fingers and sent a text message to Chiao Mian. "Where did you sign the contract?" "Already arrived." He waited for a few minutes before receiving a reply from Chiao Mian. "I am at Tang Ai Film and Television Company and I have just arrived." "Are you still busy at work?" "No matter how busy you are, don't forget to have breakfast." After receiving this text message, The man was stunned for a moment, and then, as if the ice and snow had melted on his handsome face covered with dark clouds, his expression softened a lot in an instant. She also knows how to care about him. Does this mean that she actually doesn't dislike him that much? Thinking of this, in order to prevent her from making an appointment with someone else at night, he immediately made an appointment. Free up your time in the evening and let's have dinner together? Whatever you want to eat, I will accompany you. Chiao Mian replied quickly, okay. Seeing this reply, Mo Yesi's expression softened a lot. He wanted to explain to Chiao Mian, but after thinking about it, he gave up. Explaining to her at this time is nothing more than hiding something. She won't believe it either. It's better to prove it to her today. Mo Yesi, that's it, don't make appointments with anyone else. Chiao Mian, well, I'm about to get into the elevator. I won't reply to your message for now. We'll chat later. Thank you all for your monthly votes and subscriptions. The 8,000 word update has been completed today. Phew, Mr. Mo will prove it to Mian next time. He was just a little excited today, and then something unexpected happened. Thank you for being indifferent. 189.75, 187.36.73, 150.27, why is it like this? 152.41, I will accompany you all my life, and I will be used to all the problems. 159.85, Newai, Zhang Chanyi, 136.68, Moonlight City full of rewards. End of this chapter.